All right, everybody, I'm back. So yesterday you saw me with a different shirt on, and I had to take a pause. I'm coming back this morning. I am doing something called time boxing. I'll go into a little bit of that later on in terms of one of the habits that we can choose to focus on to achieve our objective as leaders. But today in this part two for day one, I want to focus on just giving you information about the remainder of the program. So let's jump back into the logistics. So here's what to expect across this 6 weeks of working together in the 6-week program. And one thing to note, depending upon when the program is started, it will be 6 weeks worth of content, activity, and sessions. However, depending upon holiday schedules, the total duration of the program may be longer than 6 weeks so that we can accommodate and give people the opportunity to attend and make the program more accessible. So here's what to expect across the 6 weeks of working together. So the program is designed through a series of materials and engagements, as well as accountability, to help you to jumpstart some of the habits that we're discussing. And the materials will be provided in a worksheet. You can review the materials, watch the videos, and then usually at the end of every day, there will be some form of accountability, likely submitting a form to help you to start momentum on the behavior. And then what I found to truly be effective is when we start to learn something, is immediately apply it. I took my MBA 16 years after my undergrad, and I would say one of the best benefits about doing that for me was every day I was learning something and every day I could apply it. So that will cover the materials. There will be group sessions as well. And in the group sessions, we'll have weekly topics based upon the current week that we are in the program. It's also an opportunity to get together as a group and for you to ask your questions around things that you may need support on. And in this forum, some of the benefits are that when we share these things with the group, you won't only get my perspective, you'll get possibly the perspective of other people in the room, as well as it's an opportunity for everyone in the room to learn from the question and the answer that you are raising. So it helps to accelerate the learning in this group setting. So for the group sessions, I will send out a form if you would like to pre-submit your question, and that'll give me the opportunity to review it beforehand, or you can ask the question live and in the group session. And also the group sessions will be recorded so that you can go back and watch and make sure that you picked up everything that was said, as well as sometimes people can't attend the group session because life happens. We all have our commitments. So this gives the opportunity for others in the program to come back and learn later on. What if you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable raising in a group, but you would still like to talk to me about it? So my objective with this program is to make things accessible. And I also need to be conscious of the commitments that I have made in my professional and personal life. And I feel this one-on-one micro chat capability will enable us to have the opportunity to go back and forth on a specific topic that maybe you don't want to raise in the group setting, but you would like to discuss with me one-on-one. And then finally, an accountability group. So this is an opportunity for us as leaders to come together. And if you would like to choose to continue the connection with the group through the program and beyond, the accountability group will allow you to do that. You can raise topics in the group. You can support one another through different things. And it allows us to create those further shared experiences, which contributes to relationships and building trust. All right, so why 6 habits? Again, the objective is on the left. We're always aligning to the objective. This in itself is a habit and will be important to hit the objective of helping to lead others and creating the significant accomplishments that we want. But some of the themes that we'll touch across the 6 habits, and the reason for the selection of those 6 habits is, from my experience and from what I've learned, these 6 habits, if we're able to make them real in our practice, have the highest probability of accelerating towards the objective. So what are some of the things we're going to cover in these 6 habits? I am a big proponent of setting boundaries and creating a commitment. I'll talk more about that later. Why 6 habits as well? Because in the leadership space, there's so much content out there, and scholars have written about this. So people that have gotten their doctorate and they build on knowledge and they study leadership, and they've come up with over 200 definitions of what leadership is. So how do you derive information from all those definitions and really make it practical? And I mentioned earlier these 6 top habits. So 6 habits that you can implement quickly and have as a resource for yourself. These are really designed to get the results that you're wanting that are aligning to the objective of the program. Also, these 6 habits they're not separate. They build on each other. They sequence off of each other. And as you develop as a leader, and I'm sure you're already aware, things are not linear. They're multidimensional, they're dynamic. So getting like a framework or a process is helpful, but also understanding how that adapts and changes because of multiple things that necessarily don't happen in a certain type of sequence. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the program. So I'm briefly going to walk you through like what's going to happen in each of the 6 weeks. So there are these top habits, and the top habits will be the main habit for each week, and we'll focus on specific behaviors within each of the habits. So we got to start with ourselves, right? We need to make sure that before we are externally trying to influence and create habits in others and getting scale and executing through others, well, we really have to make sure that we are doing that for ourselves. And there's a lot of implications on that. So for example, leading by example, if others see you exhibiting those behaviors, they're more likely to commit to those behaviors as well. I'm going to talk about things of like time and how time is both a quantity and a quality of time. And what are the habits around that in terms of execution and inspiring those types of habits in others. And what it ultimately boils down to is when we set this foundation, it allows us to show up as our best self in that moment and improve that quality of time that we have for that given quantity of time that we have. And we'll cover different things like commitment, what it means to be in control or control in general, things around motivation, and also how we are interpreting things and how that may be impacting our decision making. In the second week, we're going to be focusing on those we would like to lead and what it means to empower them. And we will talk about the environment and really being the environment in which we work together as a team and really being aware of that environment and how that's impacting our team. Like our team's not only quantity of time, but also quality of time. We will delve deeper into some aspects of mentorship with our team members, as well as different team and people management approaches. The third habit, and this is the next 3 habits are kind of like capstoned around exceeding expectations. So it's like targeting exceeding expectations and delivering on those exceeded expectations. And then a little bit about communicating on those exceeded expectations and how to leverage that to get the results that you would like to achieve. And the first thing that we're going to focus on is essentially like what are we targeting? So as part of vision and strategy creation, it's targeting the right thing. And how do you determine that you're targeting the right thing? Well, you need to get the right information, and then you need to build an implementation plan using that information, your strategy, to make that happen. And as I mentioned earlier, these habits, they build on each other. So we're going to apply some of the things that we learned in habits 1 and 2 to habit number 3, so that when we look at an implementation plan for our strategy, we are picking the things that are likely to happen. And we'll go into that in more detail during the program. Okay, so top habit number 4. This is about execution. So time quantity, time quality, we'll go into more specifically into that area and how to drive execution for yourself as well as for your team. So resources, it's not just money, it's our team members. We need to effectively lead those team members as well as efficiently lead those team members. And this will be aligned to the target or the strategy and the implementation plan that we started to create in our 3rd habit. So again, sequencing and building on our habits to get that growth and that success. And if you notice under the objectives and in the brackets, you're seeing the different aspects of value. So the broader theme through the program is, again, creating that. We want to create that value. We want to repeat the delivery of that value through habits. So we create that big pattern that delivers on these consistent results. All right, so top habit number 5. So we've looked inward, we've looked outward towards our team, we've looked at strategy, we've looked at implementation of that strategy. We focus essentially on operations and execution, looking at time quantity and quality. And now, how do we even expand that out further, especially in places where we may not be directly leading? And this is one of the keys to getting even those larger significant outcomes and being able to do it on a consistent basis. We will talk about the importance of frameworks, and specifically frameworks that you can create based upon your prior success to leverage those kinds of broader outcomes and show more organizational leadership and value. So the last habit, you're doing all this work, you're sequencing and building off of these habits, you're driving these outcomes. But at the end of the day, if the right people are not aware of the outcomes that you're having, and you're not engaging in a certain way that demonstrates your leadership, you really are not leveraging all that work to help you to gain these broader opportunities to take on more of a leadership challenge, as well as the benefits of doing so. So if increased compensation or accelerated promotions or just the knowledge and the experience that you want to acquire, it's gonna, if you want to become more and more of a senior leader, you're gonna have to communicate the work that you're doing in a way that doesn't come off as bragging, but actually comes off as demonstrating your skill as a leader. So the communication itself, not only the content, demonstrates your ability to lead. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the 6th week of the program. So at the end of every day, there's going to be an action item. And the action item, it's not going to be this huge thing that you have to spend a lot of time on. It will be either filling out a form, and I will send what you enter in the form back to you so that you have it for your records, and you can choose to store that and refer back to it and build upon that after the program is over. And today's action item is going to be focused on where you are now. we would like to understand that so that at the end of 6 weeks, has this helped you? Have you made somewhat of a transformation? Do you feel like you're starting to build these habits? And is your confidence improving across these habits? So expect that at the end of every week. All right, so the next day we'll come back to that for tomorrow, or you can decide to go ahead now if the content is available for you in your worksheet. If not, it will be available to you in the next day. So I will see you for day 2.